everybody. Thank you for coming. We're going to get the show on the road. And tonight, we're extremely pleased to have back with us Marie Stancek. Welcome back to Berkeley for this evening. Thank you for agreeing to read the Holloway series. And you're going to read for us, and she'll be introduced by Lindsay Choi. The first reader is going to be Jessica Lazar, and she's going to be introduced by Leo Dunsker. I'm Cecil Giskin. I teach English here, teach poetry here, and my co-curators for the Holloway Poetry Series are Pedro Roland and Camille Considine. Thanks to you guys. Yes, applause for them. Heroes, thank you. Our friends from Pegasus Bookstore are here. You buy a book, get the authors to sign it. The next readings are going to be on the 28th of September by Tommy Blunt. The 11th of October, John Keane will be here, and on the 26th of October, Victoria Chang will read. And I thank you for coming, and I will turn the stage over to Leo Dunsker, who's going to introduce Jessica Lazar. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. It's my great pleasure to be introducing Jessica Lazar's work to you all, and I look forward to hearing Lindsay and Claire's works in due course. Jessica once told me in the context of a sort of interview, quote, "I'm wary of the idea that more knowledge means more expertise, and as a maybe too educated person, I'm hungry for the forms of attention and experience that too much knowledge obscures." What did she mean by this? Make no mistake, our poet is an expert. What I take her to be saying is something like, no amount of expertise entitles you to not pay attention. In Jessica's interview with Sharon Olds calls accuracy a form of love. She continues, quote, "I think there's something interesting about reality, the things people really say," end quote. Like good anecdotes, Jessica's poems create the narrative sense of something larger than the self, of reality, by narrating the self. They are, to adapt Olds, songs of praise and accuracy. They demand not disinterest, but interest. So, be interested in the I in these poems, its orientations and attunements, because that is where the work is done. There are we's in these poems too, for example, but they aren't real. They're the we's of an I. They're there to help it think. In Jessica's poem, Thomas Jefferson, one such I says, "You said it when you called adulthood learning to live according to your values." Perhaps this is exactly the sort of solemn pronouncement to which, in our weaker moments, we feel expertise entitles us. In the poem, it is met with impatience. One might compare this pronouncement on values to Nietzsche's remark that, quote, "One's maturity consists in having found again the seriousness that one had as a child at play," end quote. More on that in a moment. To this you, our I has said, quote, "I said I was a horse because I like to be compelled," end quote. And later says, "I said I was a horse, but of course I was a chair, and the chair I was is the horse I will be," end quote. Values are formulated here according to one's capacity to articulate sensation and feeling. They are discovered in description and in the kinds of affective possibilities that description makes available. I'm reminded of Wallace Stevens when he writes that, quote, "The imagination is the power of the mind over the possibilities of things. But if this constitutes a certain single characteristic, it is the source not of a certain single value, but of as many values as reside in the possibilities of things." That's why you don't call adulthood learning to live in accordance with your values. And what about that hunger? The hunger for experience that too much knowledge obscures, to quote Chess. On the subject of hunger, I quote Nietzsche only one more time. Quote, "When the house burns, one forgets even lunch. Yes, but one eats it later in the ashes." People, the implication seems to run, would like very much to forget that they are hungry, but no amount of knowledge prevents hunger. The pretense of expertise, like the adult's insistence on a rather unimaginative kind of value, is the pretense that one doesn't get hungry. Sooner or later, though, one eats. Jessica is the author of 2 books, Planet Drill, out last year from Future Poem, and Sergei Kuzmich from All Sides with Letter Machine Editions, in 2019. Recent work has appeared in the Paris Review, the Yale Review, Changes Review, and Amulet. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Hello. How's this volume-wise? Okay, great. Thank you, Leo. That was very kind. And Claire, it's so great to read with you. We were in a workshop together also with Leo in my first semester in the program. I'm really hoping that this is my last reading as a grad student for Holloway. And in that spirit, I'm going to read one poem. And the poem deals with both fulfilling a language requirement for the program and my 200 text. For those of you who don't know, we take a class in our first year where we choose one text and then we look at it from various critical angles. And the text that I chose was the translator's preface to the King James translation of the Bible. So you can see why I ended up in academia. Okay. This is called consecutive preterite, and it's in sections, but I won't indicate that as I go along. Consecutive preterite. That summer, I learned biblical Hebrew with Christian women jerking themselves toward ministry, one brick building at a time. We got along well, they and I, and our teacher, a religious studies graduate student who spent 8 hours a day transmitting the grammar and syntactical rules of ancient languages, afternoons training one student in Ethiopic, mornings with the 6 of us. Biblical Hebrew conveys meaning through roots, he taught us. Each root consists of 3 consonants. Okay. Some roots appear the same, but differ in meaning or pronunciation. Oh no, we groaned. Things were getting complicated. The meanings we have to look up in our Brown Driver Briggs lexicon. The pronunciations we learned to recognize thanks to a vowel system long ago standardized from the Masoretic text. When will you teach us how to look things up? One of us asked. The rest of us cooed. The teacher must have said later or soon. It was a fast-moving intensive. I had neglected to bring my lexicon to class. It was too heavy. And to tell the truth, I had not once opened it since it had arrived, addressed to a former lover from whom that summer I was subletting. I had addressed it that way so as to avoid confusion, that of the male personnel. I had not considered that it might not function like a regular English dictionary. English words you look up by first letter, but these you could only find after you learned to read them for roots. At an unknown point in the deliberations by committee that led to the King James translation of the Bible in the early 17th century, someone had the brilliant idea to distinguish between English words with exact equivalents in the original tongues and those without direct corollary. This is why, even in contemporary printing, the translation is full of italics, marking words with which the translators were forced to supplement original text in order to make their translation make sense to a humanity so fallen as to be English-speaking, an English-speaking humanity. It wasn't that previous translators, of which there weren't as there are now excessive numbers, had found a way to translate more perfectly. Only that the King James translators were first to acknowledge in print the inconvenience and also their reluctance to interpolate at all at a time when translation had only recently distinguished itself legally from blasphemy, and the punishment for blasphemy was death. The habit of italicizing added words came with first quarto and octavo editions printed for small churches or private use in 1612. Robert Barker, King James' troubled, bankrupt royal printer, used Roman type for these throughout, and italicized words he previously had in Roman in the 1611 First Folio editions, now called he and she Bibles, demarcating what appeared to have been two first printings, Ruth 3:15, the only difference between them, where, having slept at his feet on the threshing room floor, Ruth brings Boaz a garment he's asked for, and he empties 6 measures of barley into it. Then one of them goes into the city, he or she. Boaz with the barley, Ruth with the barley, or Boaz alone while Ruth takes the barley elsewhere. Another verse has Ruth showing barley to Naomi. Still, someone went into the city, and it could have been Ruth bringing Naomi the barley, or Boaz on other business. If some words are closer to God, and these are those that can be translated directly, if all languages share a source their words in common evince the most minimal human intervention in, then what does it mean that Biblical Hebrew lacks a verb that directly approximates to be? Italics in the King James translation seem always to emphasize states of being, as if in the speaker a transformation has occurred just prior to the act of speaking, making the speech describe a past that no longer holds true. A good example of this is Psalm 73:16. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. Biblical Hebrew, our teacher said, has a tense reserved for narrative. He called it consecutive preterite. It marks events that transpired in the past successively. You make it by putting the word and before adjussive. Does anyone know what adjussive is? No one said yes. Adjussive is a kind of prayerful thinking. Instead of he ran, you'd say, may he run, or let him. Oh wow, I said, has anyone heard of Christopher Smart? After a few days, or their equivalent in weeks, I went home and tried reading. I opened my brown, leather-bound Biblia Hebraica to Genesis. The books in Hebrew are named for their first word, often a compound equivalent to multiple words in translation. So Genesis is in the beginning. I liked imagining other books retitled this way: Call Me Ishmael, Earthy Anecdote, Our Age is Retrospective, in the Ice Cream Parlor, It is a Truth Universally Acknowledged. This was a silly exercise, but it got me looking back at books I loved or wrote or thought about. When I returned to Genesis, it was late, and I had been sitting too long on my former lover's tall stool, bent over his high drafting table. My body ached. If you, as I on that night, didn't yet know about consecutive preterite, you also might sit too long at a tall stool wondering how your education could have omitted the fact that in Biblical Hebrew, what God actually says is, let there be light, and let there be light. The 6 of us were each amazed by different kinds of things. One girl found the Akedah so interesting, it made her think all denominations, ministers in training should have to learn Hebrew too. I heartily agreed from my plastic seat. The room was either humid or freezing, depending on who took charge of the air. That summer, I was so stressed out, I had pain in my neck, back, feet, and teeth. Sometimes I brought a tennis ball to keep between my hip and the back of my seat to try to loosen something. The Akedah, said my classmate, was interesting because if you didn't read Hebrew, you wouldn't see how many times the word wood was used. Abraham cuts the wood, takes the wood, lays the wood on Isaac. Isaac sees the wood and fire, but no lamb for the sacrifice. God will provide, says Abraham, laying the wood in order, and Isaac on the altar, on the wood. I liked that she was interested in the recurrence of a single word. Adjusting my tennis ball, which had moved, I asked, why is wood so interesting? Because, she said gently, in my tradition, This is a story that prefigures something. We were women. We often brought cookies to share, chips or candy, coconut-coated almonds sent from the South by a mom. One 3-day weekend resulted in a freshly baked pie the extra day had allowed the crust of to rise or set. I'm not sure. I didn't bake what I brought. I drove my former lover's silver minivan to pick up visitors. The rearview mirror had fallen off shortly after I dropped him at the station, though he'd spent the ride trying to stick it back on. I was his subletter, and he, a carpenter, musician, divinity scholar on his way to collaborate in Sweden. We'd met one night long before when I'd slept at his feet on the threshing room floor. I'd been advised to remove his shoes and let him tell me what to do. Bring me your coat. He filled it with barley. Then one of us went into the city. Later, he suggested we hang sometime while we passed each other on Market Street. He didn't stop walking, only slowed. He told me he'd given me barley because he'd never before seen me, a rare quality, obscurity, in such a small town. But you are my kinsman, I protested. No, he said. I know your kinsman. And if it's still true in the morning that your kinsman will not do his part, then I will do for you the part of a kinsman. But I rose before one could know another. What would he have given had he known me? The minivan was full of gear, the seats lowered to make room. I wore sunglasses I found in the car and listened to the musician whose CD was in the player. He sang in a way that annoyed, then addicted me. Aside from offering no way to see behind me, the car seemed safe. I drove it to physical therapy. My therapist was Julia. She drove her thumbs into my fascia. Julia, I said, it still hurts. Are my ribs too splayed when I lean to the wall to stretch my calf? Is my arm in the right place when I bring the tension band across my hip? And what about this, I said, rocking my ankles over half a foam roller. Am I doing it? I had questions. Pain wouldn't abate. I rolled my foot on a frozen water bottle, did shoulder releases guided by free internet videos, and in supportive shoes, I walked to class with a stack of note cards, memorizing vocabulary for each day's quiz. I learned words for father, son, fire, mother, a word for sheep, goats, or sheep and goats, words for Solomon, Isaac, Moses. Some words I didn't learn, like ghost. I was the best student in the class. It was genetic, I joked. No one laughed. I got perfect grades, higher even than A's because of the curve and extra credit. I walked past the same besuited, probable lawyer every day, walking his handsome brown dog. The dog's coat rippled in the already swollen early morning summer sun. What will you give now that you know me? Sometimes my former lover came home from upstate New York or Sweden and thought about staying on the couch, then stayed with friends. It would have been weird in the morning. I hardly remembered his body, only that something had soured between us when I disinvited him from a poetry reading. I told him readings were stressful workplace environments for me. We never recovered, though he fixed my bike, and I brought him 3 formal letters of apology. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be introducing Marie Stancek. Did everyone hear all of that even though I moved away from the mic? Yeah. Okay. That was incredible, Jess. I loved hearing your recitation. I think that this intro is going to be shockingly continuous with our theme now of our Berkeley experiences. I'll begin with Claire Marie's bio. Claire Marie Stancek is a writer, editor, and educator. Her poetry collections include Word Bird, Oil Spell, and Mouths. With Daniel Benjamin, she co-edited Active Aesthetics, Contemporary Australian Poetry. and with Lynn Judy and Jane Gregory, she's the co-editor and co-founder of Neon Editions, a chapbook press. More personally, Claire Marie and her work holds a special place in my heart. In the spring of 2015, during my freshman year of college here, I took my first poetry workshop, and Claire Marie was my teacher. During this time, Claire introduced me to contemporary poetry. She was a fifth-year graduate student who was working on what would be published as her first book, Mouths. So it's going to be difficult for me to keep this short, or at least shorter than Claire's reading, which seems like a low functional bar. I could talk about her work all day, but rather than filibustering her reading with my own, I want to share a story that Claire told me that semester for an interview that's still rattling around online. She said, when we were going shopping, there was a board, a chalkboard, and it said, "Welcome, friends." It was really sweet that I was a child. I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I erased the R, so it said suddenly, "Welcome, fiends." My mom always tells the story as an example of my young mischief and sort of cleverness. So it's one of the stories that moms tell, but I always think that story is one of the first moments when I started to be a poet. Part of what's so magical about poetry is the way in which words can become other words, suddenly transform into other words. And just to clarify again, this is Claire's story. It's not my childhood mischief. I think that this story encapsulates so much of what I encountered as both the particular joy of having Claire as a teacher and what continues to stand out to me now as a special quality of her writing. Sorry, is the mic acting up?
Yeah.
Just stand back. If you just stand back for
How's this? Better? Okay. Should I say that last sentence again, or
Please say it again.
Okay. I think the story encapsulates much of what I encountered as both the particular joy of having her as a teacher and what continues to stand out to me as a special quality of Claire's writing. Stancek's thinking is both expansive and meticulously attentive to detail. She writes often in projects, in which duration allows for the unfolding of tiny shifts and minute details of language. In a way reminiscent of the transformation from friends to fiends, Stancek's debut collection, Mouths, contains a series of poems that proceed from an initial chain of phonetic substitutions on a title word. For example, a poem titled Warm starts warm, worm, worm, that one's a no. Warm, warm, and you were asked what a degree of heat is natural to a living organism and what applied to tears. As these shifts accumulate, Stancek's seriousness of attention to each word, its sound, its semantics and tactile place within its context, how it interacts with the often intricate visual forms in which she writes, culminates towards a book-length project addressing the intricacy and complexity of a concept, never gesturing towards a totalizing notion, nor severing her object attention from its implication of the social world. Rather, Stancek posits a relationship to textuality that stresses serious tension to the movement of language and lead us not only to an awareness of the ecology of concepts and objects in the world, but a position of engagement and intervention. This relationship might be described as magical in a word. And we see Stancek's engagement with incantation, conjuring, and mystic vision throughout her 3 books. Most recently, Claire shared with me her current manuscript titled Of Care as This Encounter, which I believe she'll read from tonight. I can't wait. It's an honor to get to introduce you, Claire, and to now welcome you to this podium.
Thank you. Okay, get this right. Is this volume good? Thank you so much, Lindsay, for that beautiful and generous introduction. Thank you, Jess, for your reading. That was amazing. Thank you, Cecil, for inviting me. Thank you, Camille and Pedro, and everyone in the department who was involved in organizing this reading and making it possible. When I was a graduate student here in the English department, I don't think I missed a single Holloway reading. So to be here tonight reading is a true honor and more than a little surreal. I want to begin by reading just one poem from my most recent book, Weird Bird. As light strangling eyes, window breathes around too long her, I hear her, universe, moon spanning through, cast all suspending by which eve holds morn, night, and which night of sentence the eye illuminates triangle paint. Throat when my throat, word shine, mirror of my mirror in light as voices mourn, still coming, another grasping, keep grasping, lost, and as where hold, wait, nothing. These laptops axis, voice, world, light, while to my nothing spirit doesn't possible last, pass to where in question, obscure the model of breath, all light becomes. Breath, darkling, alive upon a time, your dark event, possible. Then see the wired birds, out on human lines that scream, unmakeover, disobedient reading, sickness of day's sun, stars leaning, spirit possibility, form its balance, form by which inquiry, surface, sight, darkened world, hold sleep, sleep a glorious waiting light, long in light by forever, this could hold, I swing through this desire's forward house, universe's grammatical reach, grazing, event into time, her, and grammatically all night long shine. So, as Lindsay mentioned, for the rest of the evening, I would like to share some selections with you from a new unpublished manuscript, which is currently titled Of Care as of This Encounter. And I got the title from my online hospital portal, where when I log in online, I can access summaries of my visits, and they are called Summary of Care as of This Encounter. So for context, I recently experienced a complicated twin pregnancy, which involved months of bed rest and a surgery during the pregnancy, eventually an early delivery, and then NICU time for the babies, who are now thriving, by the way. But I did want to share at the beginning, by way of content warning, that many of these poems do engage with medical trauma. So during my weeks and months of bed rest, I developed this feeling that I was being kind of suspended between and maybe like crushed by these two contrasting institutions of care. On the one hand, there was the medicalized, the doctor's visits, the forms, the procedures, the complications following complications. And on the other side, there was the institution of motherhood, the expectations around maternal love and care, which for me, as I lay there, came to circle around and around in my ear as nursery rhymes, this kind of like Western canon of the nursery. So the first poem I'll read from is long, so I'm only going to read the first few pages for you, but it collages language from two sources. The first is my hospital report that describes the C-section operation. And the second is this enormous old index of children's poetry, which I found in a library in which I made to kind of stand for this canon I was imagining. And I did a procedure on this book where I looked up word by word a note which was given to me, which I'll read for you in a moment. And it was it was those words that I was allowed to use from the index in this poem. I should also say that there's like visual things happening, which I'm not going to try to recreate for you during this reading, but they exist. A note from University of Pennsylvania Health Systems. This document contains information that was shared with Marie Stancek. It may not contain the entire record from University of Pennsylvania Health Systems. Operative note, statuses as of, or lines drawn from the Index to Children's Poetry, a title, subject, author, and first line index to poetry and collections for children and youth, compiled by John E. and Sarah W. Bruton, published by the H.W. Wilson Company in New York, 1942. The patient was taken to the operating room. The patient was taken to the operating room in the normal fashion. The patient was taken to the operating room where spinal anesthesia was found to be adequate. The patient was taken, identified, and entered to the underlying layer, separated in the midline, and the incision extended with the scalpel and carried through. The uterine incision was then extended bluntly from my armchair to the operating room where the old man lived in a wood. Spinal anesthesia was found. Findings: to the room in a wood. Findings: to be adequate. May snow. Underlying, carried through. She was then prepped and draped in the normal, sterile fashion, with a leftward tilt from height of noon, remote and still. Findings: operating the room where the found was patient, was adequate. A fenestial skin incision was then made with the scalpel. Of packs and burdens with roses, see content. This is the way the baby slept, from the hills of dream, of what are your clothes made, and carried through, and carried over to the underlying layer. The lower uterine segment was incised in a transverse fashion with the tide. It is not spring, not yet. The doctor, unknown, may, moon of green leaves, so, no, may not contain the entire record, not in the world of light alone. The subcutaneous layer was reapproximated with a spray of apple blossoms. With the conscience, we're able to see. With the tide, it was. The patient was taken to the operating room with a scalpel. Rarely, rarely comest thou, with the spray of apple blossoms carried through to that which shall last, for I can have no birth. See the book through, seek to the underlying layer of daydreams with a knife. Or ever the earth was calling the doctor to the fascia with the knife. The fascia was prepped and draped with the knife, carried through, carried in the midline, incised to, underlying the patient under in the room, carried through to you. May song, my song may sound. It was the morning of the first of may not, of a rose, a lovely rose carried over, my sing, my incision extended, sing the rectus, the muscles separated in the midline, identified and entered bluntly. And the peritoneum was identified, that seat of science, Athens, see, free America. The bladder blade was removed, and the foot, the root of baby B, grasped, baby B, to deliver with normal breech maneuvers without incident. The incision was then extended to the fruit, gasped leftward, It is cold, bluntly entered, this I beheld, or dreamed it in a dream. The incision was then the foot of this rose tree not made to bear fruit, it is the same and frequent star. This world was not bluntly identified of all the birds that I do know. Without incident, see, of all the birds. It is easy to mold the yielding clay. It is not yours, O mother, to complain. With a leftward tilt, grasped to deliver, with normal maneuvers carried this and that, the call of the woods, this very hour. The uterine incision was then fashioned, made with good visualization, with a scalpel. The cord was clamped and cut, off to the waiting. This is the end of the book. It is I, America, calling. The infant was handed off to the waiting pediatricians. When tulips bloom, superiorly and inferiorly, was ever heard such noise and clamor? Mother goose, that farthing bird, information, or love, whose mouth was ever May. In Pennsylvania it may from the elm tree's topmost bough. This is the pathway where she walked, with good visualization of the bladder. Some murmur when their sky is clear, of all the birds from east to west, see chanticleer, see wren, see robin, see nightingale, separated in the midline. To the operating moon, it stood at bay in its own dark sea. The procedure was 8 bells ringing. Not with a club the heart is broken, kindly vision. With courage, seek the kingdom of the dead. With little here to do or see, that woman with the somber eyes. Not least, 'tis ever my delight. See morning, the uterus was then returned to the abdomen. Attention was then turned and delivered without incident from this tower room above the wall. Baby B was rotated with love. I garnered mirth and dreams and shame, and cleared night's own trailing wind, clots and debris. The core was a baby rotated. The infant was handed this little vault, this narrow room, the effect of example. This document contains information that not lips of mine have ever said. Music when soft voices die. And as for me, this document was shared with Marie Stancek. From the legend of good women, the posterior gutter was cleared from generation to generation and delivered without incident. The next sequence I'll read from this manuscript is a series of double sonnets. I call them double sonnets, but maybe it's just more correct to call them 14-line poems. They're separated down the middle by a strong midline caesura, and that's where I'm getting the double thing. So I'm going to read a handful of these. Sign in. State your name and date of birth, your state of distress and some anxiety. Rate your pain, make it terse, make it verse, state reverse to the nurse, quick call the FAQ game and rate, disperse. Quick links, easy pay. Say today, name your name, at the tone your response experiencing unusually high volume, valued on a scale of 1, 2, buckle up, hang up, if this is an emergency, call 911, and our hours, your name in the rain, a bird in wire mesh, dead all winter, caught above the hospital entrance. Fast falls the eventide when other helpers fail. Outcry, O soul, with me to see a fine doctor upon a wide tide whose moon tethered dim on her fingers, bells on arms, alarm the hour, and hours grow feathers. Goose weather, ride and night music, wherever you know the risks. Please sign the section from fingers, O thou pass, O say, little life, who like thyself abide with me, who never could not call out, wait. No, no. Parsley, sage, gooseberry, thyme, the bear, tell her true rhyme. Don't you love or cry? For she was once going to make me tell her to cut a cambric. Can you feel your legs? Can you? Going, are you? Declaring yourself to your scar, while nurses sing, oh fair doctor, there's a hole, dear doctor. Tell her to cut with scissors of silver. Can you feel them now? 7 layers of flesh, make them make me, my melodies, my maladies, while nurses sing and babies cry. Mush, hush, a bowl full of dust. You know your mother was born to die, little babies. Don't you cry. I am no more your mother than the hills are alive with the sound that distills a mirror. You know your mother was born close, closer. I want you close as a cloud that stills with the sound we sing, devouring a forever kind of good feeling. Songs they have sung for 1,000 years. You devour me full on, fill the mouth my love loves. Moon room. And the doctor stuffed in his thumb, bread and honey pie when I was opened, the birds shall have a plum, and you began for lost, owe me 5 shillings. Never mind, baby, mother is by. The man in the moon looked out of the room, counting 1, 2, the shoe was tossed, and all for want of a good boy am I, a want you wanted, baby. Dance up high, you shall fly away, your clap, 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 crept under a frying kingdom, a rattle. Dance, little baby, the counting house is on fire. First morning. In the great green room, 1 cry, 2 little kittens. State your name and date of birth. The strangest dream, too little, with silver bells, sounding screams. Thy mother shakes, your name state. We here go round the turning tree, and from it falls strangest sweet date of birth for thee. Thy father held thee first, by a silver shakes the dream in thy mother. There's a hole round the cold, and morning has broken, like the first. Care instructions, be held or dreaming. All my wet hands, rinse well, apply with care if care were where you are, who, girl B to be, there where girl A, they shout, Mom, Stancek on the floor, unlatch the door, plastic bag my heart in my phone or the Highlands, through to you, my NICU too. When I held you, a chasing near, I left you there, my heart, behind is not here. A message new, good night, once, good night, twice, good night, moon. You'll never know, dear. Wherever I go, I love you. Your hand full of wires, a plastic bag, and a red balloon. Down, bow. Bow is spelled B-O-U-G-H. How are you sleeping? How keeping your try? You'll never know, dear. Took my arms, down my babies, how much I strapped down my gone are sleeping, how etherized my motherless soft lambkins blue and alive upon a hill. When they cried, cried too. Dreamed I cried, carried you. My arms, please don't take away with bells on their toes, my only all in a row, and would not let me hold them. You who held or dreamed it, are you going to rate your pain to one who lives? Remember me, a trail of moon crumbs, good night, room whom I would readdress the patient despite light and the red thread through our recommendations. She is not wherever you're going, I'm going, on a river of way away. Patient is clearly a scale of blue to buckle it through a light, night and do. Are you going to? Mouth mask. 100 other mothers in the beginning held you and sang the same songs, some gently, some with swift ringing and flashing. Fingers, bells on her toes, pixelated peaks, the lines to and from your heart. Shampoo you smelled like. Goodnight songs we have sung. Who washed you first? For 100 mothers, everyone wore gloves, masks. Everyone said of my empty bulk husk, any day now? But secretly I bared my whole damp face for you to feel a mother's lips, your eyes spun open, dilated. Whose floating eyes over the white masks? Whom could I tell? Who would believe? She is mine, mine, and she shall have music wherever she goes. This next one repeats the line, here I am, twice, and the first time it's spelled, here I am, like, here I'm here, and the second time it's like, here I am, like the from metrical foot. Lamb, land. Little lamb, here I am. Violets are blue, and good luck on a Wednesday lasts all the day. Shake, 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 a kiss for you. Sneeze for a letter, or for danger make a wish for the roses are blue too. Little boy blue, your horn, the cow ran away, and who said the song should or even could be new? Who said moon's in the meadow, and here I am, sneezing on a Monday, gotta clap, 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 with the sound on repeat, after me, after you, pick it up. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Clock struck. Rate your pain on a scale of 1, a penny, 2, a penny. Clock struck down. 2 tablets every 3, 4, shut the door, with 0 being no pain, and 9, 10, a big fat hen, sitting on a speckled, log your response, in the portal, put the kettle on, take it off again, run up the clock and put the kettle on the log, on the bump on the clock, struck me as though 11, 12 being the worst possible, awaiting, yes, and back again, take it off, go back, put it on, go back. Did you ever see such a sight in your life, in the hole, in the middle, with a carving knife, 9, 10, together again of the sea? Sing, sing what I beheld or dreamed it in a dream. Sing, sing, what shall I sing along with? Go alone to the chorus in the wood. Have you heard this one to delight your ear, this clear one before, a note, a wire through, noted, requiring ring, that is loud and fear this will sting a little, pinch a line on the echoing skies, resounding ding. What shall I bring? O instrument, let me be thy thing, louder around your hand full of notes. There, green, that line on the screen. The last poem I want to share with you this evening is a long one. It takes about 11 minutes to read. I just wanted to warn you. And it touches obliquely on a pregnancy loss I experienced before having my twins. There's also poison in this poem, the recurrence of the word toxins, which refers both to the general atmosphere of warming and pollution that we live in, and also a specific experience of poisoning, which I don't yet fully know how to talk about. Towards the end, there's the line, I give you the world, and when I typed the word world originally, I mistyped it as like Alrud, and then suddenly I saw in this mistyping the word owl red, and followed it through, and then started opening myself more to certain kinds of mistypings that seem to open up like an imaginative possibility within the poem. And so world, like world around, becomes world red, and the reason towards the end becomes threaded through as threeson. What is the reason for your visit? What is the reason for your visit? What is the reason, little lives, little live ones, and how may we make you stay? Say the fascia was incised. Say the incision extended from the top of the bluff where the wind blows free. See the edge of the world. See the reason for your visit. From the hilltop, some great star, from our hidden places. What reason for your summary of care generated? And our hidden edge of reason, our world edge, you fell to from, down through me. Among hear us, with here our toxin, I would not unpoison you. Cannot from, see the others. It is spring. It is morning. How happy I feel. How the bleeding spaces were inspected. How any bleeding was already here for you in, buried in the downy pillow. But as though with a clear eye, one could cast down the whole long stretch, narrow the way through, corridor, my body breathes you. The reason for your visit is in many ways made plain to us. This is about mountains. 1 dose, 2 dose, 3, 4, close the patient, a ghost was taken, a door found adequate. It is the blue-winged cry, this quiet dust, from dusk till dawn, the livelong night, this just encrusted edge of, this dust. What the diagnoses / procedures, what the recollections, what the diagnoses, what active problem. As the attending physician, I saw the history, slick lacquered stains of blue-black berry night smoking roundly, resolutely. It is good to strive against the wind and rain, rolling the shapes of active problems. What that sound at night is breath. It is my own. What is the reason whose ancestors called you down in me and the sound of their voices, toxin talking sound, was here hidden. Hour when the city sees sky signs, see with immensity, and without be following, falling, comet hair, I'm dense with, see with, city eyes. Under the greenwood tree, where category fell, split the cave of me, dripping, gape, gawked, wide. This season for what is it? Formatting of this note is different from the original. May they come, not thankful. Of heaven or hell, I have no power to sing to bring you to. You would be well. Tell me where, under stars, malpresentation, abruption, preterm event, with the formatting, with the quiet, with this dust, this patient aware in the event of the given. What fell upon us like an encounter, the details of influence of natural objects, the visits requested, that such have died, and of all the birds, may nothing evil cross this door. What your encounter incised, what reason? An ant carries a dead ant, falling forward with each step, resolute on the jute. Even so, follow a wanding procedure performed to confirm that overnight a rose could come. See, overnight a rose. See, a crack between wall and star new sky. That night, I think that no one slept. Documented as of this encounter, the skin closed with active problems, patient back from dream, where you flew into me, out again, you meant it, documented, fleeting, fleeing, toxin, my clocks, and problems may active, but it is not hard to tell of a rose. Reason for, in whose lush poison my babies fret, sweat along temples, offering ancestors little fat fingers, drool slick, a fist of, down from, thrown to you, wants to sleep this AM, feels what remains, oh, returned uterus to abdomen. Was there another spring than this? Why do you sing still? Cry out to us. The voices I heard from within the internet, they or I misheard. This is a dream where lips of mine, keening cry, they would ring. They said, why sing? They said, what is the reason for your visit? This life, the solitary active problem, issues or symptoms, the formatting. Rain dark, drenched, when rocking, I did clutch my own bleeding self, singing, won't you be my little baby. See that such have died. Then ring the bells, then rung the other issues, symptoms, other issues forth. Sing out, sing out. Visit your reason for what is, electronically signed by who loves the rain with the knife. Common things, abdomen, soft, non-tender, and gravid. Agree with above, count to support anxieties, declines sleep aid, plan for initially uninterested, will readdress. This door you might not open and you QRS, yes. Peach your cheek, wee to wit, to you, W, wet, yes. X marks the eggs, out sound, upflung and away from, not here, this fluid absence of your voice, into which I sing, my love. Visit you daily, progress note to the operating note may contain it, please note it may, it lies around us like a cloud. See the other world, present prior to rupture, no change. Other issues or symptoms, harvest moon, the blade was then, this is the way. What is the reason for your visit to sing out your heart? It is so far from thee. Formatting of my heart, under whose gloaming I carried you, drenched through, mine with our heart's blood, not accepting of with rue, won't you be my reason for your rue, my brief, your progress, labored, touched with splendors of the moon. Why, all the time, to keep you from dying, I tried, when what you needed shelter from was life. From breakfast through all the day, A was apple pie, and I summoned you from under my heart, for it does not go out of her heart ever again. And toxin to follow where you lead, in leaden rings, she shall, cloud sense of, mouth, mother mouth, your cheeks warm, fruity, drink your yeasty sweat of mine, your mater, meter, sung, hums the matter, mother, whatever is the shattered season, meted I give you the owl red, with blooded howl, worlded o'er, the door through, this noise, it is the breath, and that the wall, and that the wind, and that the wind, breath, wall, wind, that the door, who called you forth, called you back. You give and take and take. Take me where could I go with you, where in gladness you were, where are you well, where you would be, through the corridor, beating blood, a whirl red through. What is the reason for your visit, through a comet streak across you, grab into my hair, tangle your fingers in the reason, threaded there are no more seasons. She season no more shall be. There it is, the evening, weaving through, lattice light, bright, become knots of time, oh mine, my not mine, wade through, red blued, cut open, out comes you, fully blue and alive, talking, gesturing, braided hair of evening, orange pressed through, oh, any more. I give you forth, there, seasonless in dreaming with, a fragile force, a silver moon, and a cup of light alive. I send you dripping out from this dying cave of me, in the room where cloud could sun and sun return, and passes turn as dark as though this room would be engulfed, release you. This room would be engulfed, release you. Wildering, worldring on shoulders seas and wildering, worldring on shoulders seas and ring the skies, sing out beyond, who electronically signed that singing. Ring, ring open, my loves. Thank you.
Jeez, Claire. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Leo, and thank all of you for coming. Come back in a couple of weeks to hear Tommy Blunt. Tonight, buy a book and be well. Take care, everybody.